Alright, so I'm on my way home from a dance and cheer studio shoot, which is not something I'm familiar with at all. It's way out of anything that I have ever done. I don't know anything about it. I've had friends and then like siblings that did dance and cheer stuff, but I was never interested in it. So it's not something I've ever shot before, it was very different. So a lot of the stuff that I've done is much more. I don't want to say dynamic, but it's a lot more. There's more going on, and there's a lot more space to go. With this dance and cheer place I was doing, it was inside of their studio or their gym. And it had really good lighting. I mean, it looked pretty good. I'll put in some clips here so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about, what I got. But I just wanted to talk about it. I'm trying to get more into behind the scenes vlog stuff, show you guys what I do. It seems to be something that's popular, that people like to see. And so I just figured I'd start doing that. Of course, just like with everything else, it's a trend that's been around, and I'm late to the party. That's just the way it goes with me. It's something that I see, but I always think that it's dumb, and then the next thing I know, it's taken off, and then everybody's doing it. So whatever. So with this business, I'm trying to take off. Your pixel visual, you can kind of see it. I'm trying to do more stuff behind the scenes and do more things where people can kind of see the day-to-day life, and it's not just the results, and there's no face to it. Most of my Instagram, as well as my YouTube, because that's where this is going to go, is YouTube, is pretty much just the end result, and that's it. There's nothing else. And while that works for me, I'm fine with not being in front of a camera. This was something that I had been thinking of and wanting to do for a while. Not this specifically, but doing this type of thing. This is the very first one, so it's likely that you guys probably won't even see it, because if I get back home and then put this on the computer and start looking at it, and I just can't stop cringe myself out of existence, then I just won't post it. I'll just wait for the next time. But if I do post it, then it's the first one. Tell me, if you guys like it, what you guys think. What I meant to do was put this on top of my camera while I was in the gym recording. I think I was maybe an hour in before I realized I forgot to put it on top. And so I just kind of was like, whatever. I'm just gonna keep shooting, because if I do that, it's something else that's going to get, not get in the way, but like interrupt my state of mind and like the flow that I'm in. Because I was already shooting and moving around and trying to catch different stuff and trying to look at different angles and trying to figure out what to get. And if I put that on top, it was going to be something I was going to be thinking about, and then just interrupt it. Plus, this thing that I was at, so it's for Extreme Dance and Cheer in Tulare. It's just a bunch of people that can come and see if this is something that they would like to try to do more of, or maybe they like to join and learn more. And so it's all age groups, and it's mostly beginners in dance. There were some people in there that were, I don't want to say advanced, because I don't know the levels of this stuff. I don't know how it works. But they knew more than others, clearly, because they were doing more advanced stuff. Like some of the girls were doing backflips and stuff. Things that, a lot of the younger or more novice kids that were there weren't even touching. They weren't even trying. So it was a lot of beginner stuff, and I didn't want to give them something else to be nervous about. They're already nervous because this is something that a lot of them haven't done or have done very little of before. Plus, it can be nerve-wracking just being in a new place and then being around these new people. And then some of them were doing like being lifted into the air and learning how to do things like that. And so that's even more nerve-wracking, because now you got to worry about if you're going to fall, and if the person holding you is doing their job, and if the people that are spotting you are doing their job. So there's all this to go on. So I was like, I'm just not going to do it for now. On the way home, I'll kind of talk about it, and I'll throw in some of the clips that I got, and then we'll go from there. And then we'll see if this is something I'm going to continue doing. So anyway, it was very new. It was very interesting watching these, because it was like, I don't know, I think the youngest girl there might have been 3 or 4. The oldest one might have been 12. I don't know, if I had to guess, maybe 30 people. And then there was 4, maybe 5 coaches. And so they were all just kind of learning, and so they were doing different things. The younger ones who hadn't done a lot of it, or who had done very little of it, were kind of in one corner, and they were just being shown the basics. They weren't jumping, they weren't being thrown into the air, they weren't doing anything like that. They were just kind of learning the basics, and I think they called it tumbling. I think is what they said. I don't know that I'll do it again. I had reached out to somebody in Tulare who didn't have a whole lot of a social media presence, and so I was like, hey, you know what? Let me do a test shoot, and see, because it's not something I've done, but you also look like you might be able to use some content, so let's help each other out. And so I went and did it. I did it last week as well. Last week was my first time, but I didn't have this camera. So it was very new, it was very interesting. Like I showed you guys, or like I was saying, most of my stuff has been cars and motorsports. There's a lot of places I can go. I can look at stuff on the track. I can look at stuff off the track. There's a ton of room, a ton of flexibility with this, as far as where I can physically go and shoot from. But with this, it was so much tighter, and I had to be careful anytime that I went into the middle, because they were doing things. They were trying to learn. It's a dance and cheer place, and so this was kind of a combination. So they were doing dance stuff, but they're also doing cheer stuff, like with the I'll throw some clips in where they do like the pyramid, where it's like 3 or 4 girls on the bottom and then they pick one up. That was they were doing that. I don't know what that's called. I don't have a clue. So I had to be careful, because I had to make sure that they weren't, because I didn't want to get in the way. I gave them, like in traffic terms, the right of way. I wanted them to be able to do whatever they needed to do, and I needed to make sure I wasn't in the way. And so I had to be careful anytime I went to the middle, because I had to make sure they weren't doing something to where they would run into me. And I wasn't worried about me. I wasn't worried about my camera, any of that. I was worried about them getting hurt. I didn't want them to get hurt. And so that was something new that I had to constantly keep in the back of my head. And I also had to, like usually at the racetrack, as long as I'm not near the edge of the track or even outside shooting from the fence, for the most part, I don't really have to pay attention too much to what's going on around me. I can kind of just look at my camera and do my thing. So anyway, I'm used to that. So at this dance place, I had to keep that in the back of my head and make sure that I wasn't getting in the way, and I wasn't inhibiting anybody's progress, or getting in the way of a coach that was trying to teach somebody, or get in the way of the student, because the coaches would help some girls, and then if they got to a point where they were comfortable and they just were doing something on their own, they would go find an area in the gym on their own to practice. So I wanted to make sure I didn't want to get away in them. I didn't want to get in the way of their whatever their mindset was as they were trying to get this stuff down. So I had to make sure and be aware of that. And it's strange, because I had to look at my screen obviously while I was recording, because I had to make sure I was keeping the subject in the frame, and my composition and focus and everything was right. So obviously I had to look at my camera, but that couldn't be my only focus, because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to interrupt somebody else for any reason. I didn't really talk to anybody, just because I didn't know anything about the dance and cheer world, so I didn't know what normally I would talk and ask questions about things, but I just didn't know anything. I didn't know what was going on. None of it was, so this was all very unfamiliar to me. I mean, even to the floor that they walk on, I don't know what it's called. If you're watching and you do know what it's called, just let me know, because I have no idea what it's called. But it was probably 6 inches off the ground, off the concrete of the floor, and it was very springy. Like if I weigh like 200 something pounds, if I stood on it, I could very easily compress it more than halfway. Obviously most of these girls, they weigh less than 100 pounds, so they're not doing that. But it was very strange to walk on the first time I stepped on. I wasn't ready for it. I just thought it was padded. I thought it was raised up, and it's just a platform that gives a little bit, and then there's padding on top of it. That's all I thought it was. So the first time I stepped on it, it threw me off. It threw my equilibrium off, because I wasn't prepared for how much that it actually gave under my weight. So that was very strange. So like I said, I didn't really talk to a lot of people, ask a lot of questions. Here and there I might talk to somebody. There was a little girl that was very, very interested in the video. She liked the camera and the little screen. She liked seeing her friends on the screen. She thought that was funny. I talked to one of the coaches, because he's into video as well. He does some like real estate stuff, I think. I'm not sure. So I talked to a few people, but as far as like the way I talk to drivers, and when I go to a racetrack and I'm talking to drivers and team owners and mechanics and stuff like that, I wasn't able to talk that way just because I had no clue what was going on. I didn't know enough to even start asking questions. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to try and get the video that I need. That's why I'm here. You know, if this is something that I come back to and do again, then I can, the questions that pop up in my head, because now I have a few, now that I've seen a few, 2 different sessions, I can kind of formulate some stuff. So it was very different, and it was interesting. I've kind of broken out of my comfort by starting with, you guys probably saw it on my Instagram profile. I don't think it's on YouTube. If I haven't put it on, I'll try to put it on, I'll try to remember to put it on YouTube, but I put it on my Instagram. I started doing like social media type stuff for a burger place called Z Smash Burgers in Tulare. And that was probably the first, other than portraits maybe, it's probably the first foray into something that I was not familiar with and not comfortable with. It was all restaurant stuff, so it was like I've never been in a kitchen in my life. I've never worked in a restaurant or fast food place ever. I've never worked in retail ever. I've never worked in a customer facing role. So that was very interesting to try and get those shots. Although once I got started, I was much more comfortable. I was comfortable much quicker in a restaurant setting because it's just about the food for the most part. I just could focus. It was just the food. It was pretty much it. That was what I was focusing on, was the food. So there was no reason for me to worry about anything else. But the dance thing, I was still, even after this second session, even after a couple hours, I was still not comfortable. I wasn't uncomfortable. I just wasn't comfortable. I've been doing racing long enough to where when I go to a track, I'm very comfortable. I know what I'm doing. I know where I'm going to go. I kind of know, you know, what I'm trying to get and know how to get it if I want to. And I can talk to people, and people know who I am, and for the most part, and I'm comfortable walking up to people and talking about them, their cars, experience, all that different thing, all those different things. So it's, you know, that's comfortable to me. So with this dance place, I wasn't uncomfortable. I just wasn't comfortable. And there's other stuff I'm trying to get into. I'm trying to get into real estate because it's they need images for their listings. Whether they're selling a house or renting out an apartment, they need images for that type of stuff. But it's hard to do. It's it seems to be a saturated market. And it's hard to stand out just because it's not a difficult thing to learn how to take a good picture inside of a house. If you have the right, you don't even need a great camera. It's the lens, all about the lens with real estate. You need something that's wide and does not distort. Or if it does distort, it distorts very little or is very easy to correct, which with a lot of the stuff that Lightroom has now, it's pretty easy to correct. And so I feel like it's just hard to stand out because people aren't going to want to switch, you know, from one to another, from one photographer to another, or content creator to another, you know, simply because they showed up and reached out and asked. So that's something that's hard. I'm trying, you know, I message realtors and real estate pages on like Facebook and Instagram, but I haven't really gotten anything solid back yet. A lot of times it's just, hey, thank you for reaching out, you know, we'll keep you in mind, blah, 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 and that's really it. And they're, you know, they're just being nice. But that is something else that I would like to get into, is doing that. But I'm trying to get into everything and seeing what I can do, and, you know, and try to provide a service and try to grow it, you know, grow this business and you know, make it a full-time thing where I can make a living from it. It's just going to take time to get there. But anyway, that's what I'm trying to do, is just do different things. I just did, actually, just remembered, I did a mobile auto detailer the other day. And that was the first time doing that. And that was a little easier. I was actually fairly comfortable with that because it's a car. It was only like 2 people, and it's just pretty much showing what they're doing to the car, cleaning it. Yeah, that's pretty easy. But yeah, I'm starting to get tired of my own voice, and I don't know what to talk about anymore. Like I said, I'm tired, I'm hungry. So the next one, if I do another one, we'll see. Will probably be this weekend. It will probably be like kind of get ready and go and shoot with me for the weekend and see what I get, and talk to some people and talk to other photographers and, you know, see what they think and ask them questions, things like that. But for now, that's it. I don't really know. Is it like a sign off? You know, am I supposed to do like a, you know, good night and good luck, or, you know, peace be with you, or, you know, I don't know. I should come up with something like finger guns, bang you later. No, I can't say that. Okay, bye.